I love municipal bonds. Municipal bonds are really fun. Fun, 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 fun. Municipal bonds, come and enjoy.
If you did not know, Puerto Rico is bankrupt. Perhaps it is more appropriate to ask if you even remember that Puerto Rico is bankrupt. Puerto Rico filed bankruptcy way back during the Obama administration. The unfortunate confidential truth is that if a municipal bond is bankrupt, or a U.S. municipality such as a state or city is bankrupt, and even worse if a U.S. territory is bankrupt, the process of even filing bankruptcy can be legally challenging and time-consuming. Financially, things had gotten so bad in Puerto Rico that in June 2014 it tried to file bankruptcy. In brief, annual budget deficits had ballooned into the millions and was worsening. Outstanding municipal bond debt was approximately $75 billion, and unfunded liabilities were approximately $50 billion. But because Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, the process of how it could file bankruptcy was legally questioned. Legal bankruptcy was delayed until June 2016. 2 years later. That is when then-President Barack Obama and Congress and everyone involved, basically, made possible Puerto Rico bankruptcy, and created and signed into existence an Oversight Board. Everyone involved, back then seemed to celebrate this creation of a Puerto Rico Bankruptcy Oversight Board, as though all was well and problem solved. But it really did nothing. All that happened in June 2016 was that a committee was formed, they simply christened it the Oversight Board. Responsibility to fix or figure out Puerto Rico bankruptcy was turned over to the committee. And the committee would get back to everyone involved. Soon after, a bankruptcy judge was assigned by no less than the U.S. Supreme Court, which may seem the proper legal thing to happen, but which also called into question the absolute authority of the Oversight Board. If you had invested in, purchased and owned any of the approximately $75 billion in varied outstanding Puerto Rico municipal bonds, your nightmare fundamentally started long before the attempted bankruptcy filing in June 2014. This is because Puerto Rico's deficits and debt and unfunded liabilities problems had long been a serious financial and budgetary concern. But if you were unaware of the financial problems, or of the attempted bankruptcy filing in 2014, your real nightmare legally began in June 2016. That is when Puerto Rico as well as most of its municipal bonds were finally and legally bankrupt, as well as municipal bond interest and principal payment default was legal. And stop municipal bond payments they did. Since then, there has been 6 to 8 years of negotiation. There are many sides on this negotiating table. For this episode we shall just say that, on one side, is Puerto Rico municipal bond holders, especially institutional concerns, fighting for the return and resumption of interest and principal payments. On another side, is Puerto Rico and its government and public employee unions and its citizens who fight for their own pay and benefits etc. etc. Municipal bankruptcy and municipal bond bankruptcy means financial losses. And losses, or money to cover losses, needs to come from somewhere. Holders of bankrupt municipal bonds are never in a good position. You have transitioned from being an investor to being a creditor. It can be especially difficult for individual investors, merely trying to safeguard and maximize retirement nest eggs with safe and secure tax-exempt interest income, when they are suddenly vilified as rich, Wall Street profiteers. Losses to municipal bond holders is a real thing. Real enough that a cute word was created to perhaps hide the painful truth. That word is haircut. What this means is that negotiation did not go well for municipal bond holders. And, for example, your $1 of principal investment has been negotiated down to 20 cents. That is an 80% loss. They call it an 80% haircut. As of the airing of this episode, it is early 2022. Puerto Rico is still in bankruptcy. Negotiations continue. There is still a Puerto Rico bankruptcy judge. There is still a Puerto Rico Bankruptcy Oversight Board. But Puerto Rico may be close to exiting bankruptcy. As such, Puerto Rico makes the list of one of the top public finance and municipal bond stories for this year. Unfortunately, it does seem that haircut losses could be as high as 80% for some Puerto Rico municipal bond holders. To repeat, losses as high as 80%. The losses are appearing to be varied, complicated and all over the place. My hope is when all the negotiations and legal challenges are over, when Puerto Rico actually and finally exits bankruptcy, that there are no congratulations or celebrations by any politician, by the Oversight Board, nor any of the lawyers and consultants. There is nothing to celebrate. The bottom line is Puerto Rico went bankrupt. And they went bankrupt years after the credit crisis and resulting Great Recession. The previous big U.S. municipal bankruptcy, Detroit, Michigan, failed and filed bankruptcy during and, it could be said, because of the credit crisis and Great Recession. There is no such explanation or excuse for Puerto Rico. When Puerto Rico went bankrupt, there had been very generous fiscal bailouts and stimulus flowing from the federal government. Nonetheless, Puerto Rico failed. It is a significant financial material event and case study of our municipal financial system and our country. Furthermore, the fundamental reasons for Puerto Rico's bankruptcy, that of escalating budget deficits, growing debt, and escalating unfunded liabilities, are still a problem for Puerto Rico. Be forewarned.
I love municipal bonds. Municipal bonds are really fun. Fun, 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 fun. Municipal bonds, come and enjoy.